Wheel of Fate is turning. Rebel 1. Action! Instant encounter! Instant encounter!
As a 90s kid, I played a lot of video games. As an adult, I played a lot of video games. In the early 90s, fighting games became very influential, but unfortunately, the only way to truly experience them at this early stage was to play them on an arcade cabinet in an arcade. Now, back in the day, your parents might give you $1 or $2 in change in quarters, and they expect you to be busy for about a half hour to an hour while they walked around the mall and shopped. That's right, kiddos. My parents used to leave me in a dark, scary room with other people, and they expected me to be okay. I'm not okay. However, what really happened was the kids would find their parents 15 minutes later because they were out of money. Because what they did was they went into a fighting game cabinet, put in their quarter, and then they lost in 2 minutes because they were 5 and they didn't know how to play. Congratulations, life's full of failures. This video, however, is just a brief discussion on how fighting games have become more accessible, easier to learn about, and just get into in general. It's not an exhaustive list, but very quickly, people have more access than ever at home to play fighting games, or games in general. They have more access to online information, more access to other players. There are tutorials and training modes that exist, and easier input methods and control schemes. The first one we'll get right out of the way. If you have a console or a PC, you have access to games. Whether you had to buy your game physically, digitally, or maybe you're emulating them, which is a legal gray area, but you have access to games. The other thing that is very important about learning games, however, even the retro ones, is that you have information online. A couple decades ago, we didn't have this. Now you have community pages and forums like Dustloop that exist where people that enjoy fighting games talk, and they talk about strategy and what ways to improve and stuff of that nature. The information is out there if you want to find it. Now, the other thing that I think is the most important is that players now with online functionality have more access to other players than ever. Now imagine being back in that arcade, getting beat by one person, then you go home and you play that same game, you can get beat by everybody. This is my happy face. Anyway, jokes aside, that's one of the main things that's happened. Is with online, we can play with anybody. Now, even with retro games, you can actually emulate and play remotely through platforms such as Parsec and actually play other people. Once again, kind of a legal gray area, but you have more access to other players, games, in general. All right. Now, with tutorials and training modes, tutorials we have you will teach you your basic movement, what your buttons do, maybe some special functions, maybe some basic strategy for your characters. Training modes have went a long way, however, because it used to be you'd pick your character and a training dummy that would just stand there and let you hit it. All right. Now in training modes, you can actually record your dummy doing other actions and stuff, and you react to them in a timely manner, so you get used to certain scenarios. So, hence, training mode, you're actually training for certain aspects that might actually happen to you in game. Excuse me. The final thing, however, is easier inputs and control schemes. Easier inputs, one of the things that a lot of fighting games have included lately is what we call an auto combo. Now, I'm not going to get too into what a combo is, but think of it as just a string of attacks that when you hit the opponent, they all link together, your opponent doesn't get a chance to react in the middle. They just keep getting hit. That's basically what a combo is. An auto combo is when you can multi-press. You can press a single button multiple times, and that combo automatically happens. So imagine a kid at an arcade cabinet, and they're just mashing one button, and this not necessarily complicated combo comes out, but this basic combo comes out, and they didn't have to do anything more. Now with the control schemes, we're going to use Street Fighter 6 that just came out in June as an example, because it actually has 3 different control schemes. It has classic mode, modern mode, and dynamic mode. Classic mode is the version that we've had since the early 90s, back in Street Fighter 2, where you have a joystick or a D-pad, whatever you use to move, and you have 6 buttons with different levels of attacks. You have 3 levels of punches, 3 levels of kicks. This can be very daunting for new players. So they've adopted a new mode called modern mode, where you have single buttons for some of your special moves and more higher execution abilities, but they do less damage. So that's kind of how they're trying to even it out between classic and modern, because you're able to use both control schemes online competitively. The third, actually the director for Street Fighter 6 has described this more as kind of an easy mode, where you can hand it off to like your sibling if they want to play, if you're playing like versus and local, versus each other. Basically they can just mash buttons and things happen. It's an easy mode. So you can't use it online, but if you've never played a fighting game and you're curious, you can just jump on and try dynamic mode and see what it's like to play maybe a character at a higher level than you can really work out right now, because you've never played one. You don't understand how to execute your moves and stuff. So with a lot of these changes, more access to games than ever, more access to information than ever, access to players, tutorials and training modes, and easier inputs and control schemes, things have really improved a lot. It's so much easier to get into fighting games. And fighting games has been such a niche genre, I think this is their way to try to get around it. And so far with Street Fighter 6 especially, it seems to be working, because the game just came out in June, and it's already sold over 2 million copies worldwide.